freaking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cut Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your mega preview pod for this week's Tour Championship storylines, best bets, and the conclusion of our one and done. Joining me to break it all down, Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, good day to you.
Good day. Still live in the one and done. I think Mark is trembling. I can see it on his face after my, I don't know, 500K cash in with Corey Connors last week. So we're moving in the right direction at the right time.
Big call.
Mark Immelman is here, and he is so nervous he has switched to a visor. It's visor season now.
It's visor season in Georgia. Yeah, it's hot in Georgia right now. And yeah, I'm a little nervous. I was more nervous last week, to be honest with you, for a while. But right now, I'm feeling okay about the chances over the next few days, and one and done.
Yeah, that asterisk really working hard for you this time around. Kyle Porter is here. KP, hello.
Yeah, we need hello, Rick. We need to have a separate. We need like the Tour Championship has the shadow leaderboard. We need a shadow leaderboard with whoever Mark picked originally at Kapalua.
Okay, so I hate to bring it
I agree.
This is like politics. You guys find something to resuscitate every week. It's a different story.
So someone has audited you, Mark. I have not.
Hell yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
Third party. So it's
someone. Yes, Ernst & Young was in my DMs, and they remembered that the swap you made at the Tournament of Champions was from Xander Schauffele, $200,000, to John Rahm, $3.6 million. That's a $3.4 million difference, which is more than the lead and then some.
That swap was well before the deadline. It was fine. It was coming from abroad. I'll contend that. I'll go to court with that.
All right.
I think wasn't Kapalua only like 2.5? It wasn't the
It
full.
wasn't 3.6.
Okay. Well,
But still,
But again, it's just like you're creating stories every week. It's fake news. It's fake news.
listen, I'm doing my best over here to stir the pot. Actually, on a brighter note, KP, before you jumped on, we were building the momentum towards a First Cut pod get together, and I threw out Sea Island because it's awesome, and Patrick wanted to invite the fans, and we were like, I don't know if we should do that. Maybe we should.
the fans.
We were kind of wishy-washy on that part, but Patrick did stand up for the fans.
I had to. I mean, the haters and losers, of which there are many of out there. Let's see them face to face.
See if they're as brave as what they are in the comments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good on that. You can you can entertain them, Patrick.
Patrick will go out to the bar with him every night. He'll pay the tab. Patrick, will you pick up the tab for everybody who shows up?
We'll see how the next couple months go. After this year, maybe not.
I was gonna say maybe Kyle M can after he takes down Mark this weekend.
Yeah.
What are we paying? Is there money involved this year? Actual money?
What did we do last year? $100?
Right. I mean, Coach had us like I think I spent like
Yeah,
$1,000.
yeah, I made close for winning a few of because we had legs, remember?
Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
Quarter and majors. I did pretty well last year financially.
Yeah, we're gonna have to circle on that and figure out what that is. But yeah, we'll owe Kyle M or Mark. We'll see. Probably Kyle M though. We'll owe Kyle M a little bit of cash here in a couple of days. Let's see. Jay Monahan stepped in front of a microphone today, Patrick. He sure did. This is his annual Tour Championship. Is this the closest thing to the State of the Union that we get from Jay Monahan?
I think they called it that even in his press conference. But yeah, just touching on anything and everything under the sun, but not really given a whole lot of info, in my opinion.
There was a lot of, I'm not going to talk about that publicly. Let's make sure that we complete it first. I'll be able to answer that specifically and directly in the future, KP. It was not a lot of detail as we bear down on the deadline that looms.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of words, or there were a lot of words. There was not a lot of substance. And, you know, on one hand, I get it, right? It's difficult to share in the middle of any negotiation, much less with a sovereign wealth fund of a different country, like is the case here. Is it frustrating? Yeah, he got asked what, 4 or 5 different, maybe not that many, maybe 3 or 4 different questions about live and whether it would exist, whether guys would be able to come back to the PGA Tour, and he just didn't say any. I mean, he didn't give anything. And again, I get it. You don't want to disrupt, especially something that has to be completed so quickly, right? Like by the end of the year. And he did say that he feels confident that is going to take place, or that the deal is going to come together by the end of the year. It felt like in seeing it, it felt like hey, we got this. Like, just trust us. And
trust us.
If you look at the last 18 months, it's hard to give benefit of the doubt there, right? And I think that's where a lot of fans, a lot of people are at. I just don't know if I like Jay Monahan. I don't know if he is like, can he get enough momentum going back the other way? And maybe like once the deal's done, then good to go, like lights out. But it doesn't. It feels difficult to, like, it just feels like a weird situation based on how the last 18 months have gone.
This is like, Mark, when I trick my dog to give him a treat to get him in the car, but then I take him to the vet, and then I try to do it again the next. He is very suspicious. He's very smart. He knows I'm trying to trick him. I'm not sure there's a level of trust there. I don't think I've built up the equity of trust, and I don't think Jay has either.
Yeah, I can see why people think that. I mean, I've had perhaps the benefit of talking with some tour folks over the last few weeks, and it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of concern there. Folks just have their heads down and they're going ahead with business as usual. So look, he always has the state of the tour kind of a thing at the Tour Championship, and he does so at the Players as well. To be honest with you, I'd completely forgotten about it. Time has stood still for me, and I'm all mixed up with time. So I was catching up on the transcript and stuff, and a lot of what was said was sort of what I was expecting to be said. I think Kyle has hit the nail on the head there, where he says, look, it's an ongoing negotiation. They're going to be loath to let information out, because if that happens, then it can start to influence how the deal is done anyway. So, the Players, there's been less chatter about it all on the range between the Players than what there was a few weeks ago, certainly. Let's say Canada, for argument's sake, right? It was all the talk. That's the only thing that people were talking about, the RBC Canadian Open. Last week in Chicago, it was all golf. And it's all golf this week too. So I think it's going to be more of the same. I'm just keen to see, really, because we had a big presentation from the tour executive. Maybe it was Greensboro, about the schedule and how about the 50 and the 70 and all this sort of stuff, and who's in and who's out, and how do you earn spots into all these other events, and the cadence of the tour and stuff like that. And it sounds like they've got it kind of all together. It just remains to be seen when and how this deal gets done. So that's sort of where I sit. I'm just keeping my head down and doing my job, and we'll see where the chips fall.
The one interesting nugget that I heard this morning, Patrick, was Jay Monahan said the tour has $15 billion committed through 2030. And correct me if I'm wrong, just so we're all clear, that is without the PIF money.
Correct. That's
okay.
what I understood.
So, got it. So the tour has $15 billion committed for the next 7 or so years via sponsors, television contracts, et cetera, right? I'm understanding that to be what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not enough? Right? Is there something? I know that more billions is always better, but like that does not necessarily scream financial concern in a way that this was originally presented.
I'm not sure. Ron Price in the Senate hearing said PIF was going to commit north of $1 billion. Was that the number?
Yeah.
For what time frame? We don't know.
Just their investment into the so if they, I guess, wanted like 10% at $10 billion, they'd put in $1 billion. And there's no real time frame until they pull that money out and want to cash out.
Oh, just like a cash injection.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if Kyle's better to answer that one than me. I'm not too privy to the,
Well, all right,
the tour's
KP,
financials, if that's enough money or not. I don't
$2.5
know.
billion a year, KP, committed, does not to me jive with we were in such a difficult financial position that we had to do a deal with the PIF, because those two things, I'm not making this up. Those both came out of Jay Monahan's mouth.
Yeah, I know. I mean, one of the things is you kind of double up, right? Because you're ending the litigation that they felt like was going to, sort of run them dry from a financial standpoint. And the 15 billion, I don't. That seems high, right? Like, and I know there's a new, I know the TV deals from CBS and various other ones globally, have increased over the last, I think they kicked in last year, or maybe it was at the beginning of this year. But I can't remember the exact number. I thought it was more like 1.5 a year, right?
I thought it was, maybe it was the previous one that was like 790 a year. So maybe the new one is
no, sorry. The overall revenue,
okay.
Revenue generated by the PGA Tour.
I would have said it was 1.5, which is the number I thought.
I thought it was between like 1.5 and 2. And I think 15 billion feels like one of those numbers where you're like, well, sure. Like technically, yes, but like, 12 billion of that is already committed to other things, right? Where you have like almost like these fixed costs or fixed expenses, because the profit or the structure of revenue for the PGA Tour is so strange. Remember when like the Senators were jumping into that pool and they were like, no, you don't want
that.
Yeah, you don't want to go down this road because of like each stop or each tour stop is its own like entity. It's just super complicated. So the 15 billion, yeah, I mean, listen, like it's a massive number, and I do think the litigation is one thing, but I don't know. I mean, Monahan said, this new money that we would potentially get could be used to. He mentioned a couple of things. One of them was reduce commercial load, improve the data experience, which I know you were probably fired up about. How
I was on the ground when I heard that. Yeah, I had to be picked up.
So some different things, but yeah, I agree with you. Like it did seem a little bit like, wait a second. So why are we doing this again?
Well, and just Mark, I know you want to hop in here, but just to clarify where I'm at on this is on one hand from Jay Monahan, it's, hey, we're strong. We have plenty of money committed. Don't worry about it. It's 15 billion over the next 7 years. Oh, by the way, we need this money, right? That's my only thing here. Whether it's made up money or not, whether it's committed or not, these are two phrases that have come out of Jay Monahan recently that I think are important.
Yeah, look, I don't know the financials either, but I can speak from experience, having been a head coach at a place where we raised money to put together a golf facility, like the tour's raising money to do this digitization of ShotLink, and they're building that massive footprint that is the broadcast hub next to the headquarters. And so when I would get large donations from folks, they would commit $150,000, but it was basically $25,000 a year. So you don't suddenly have someone stroking a check right at the outset. So all these sponsors and stuff, and the key word he said was committed. This money is committed, but we don't necessarily have it yet. And Kyle said so. Look, this whole thing was to get rid of the potential litigation, because that was going to get hooked up in court for the longest time, and clocks started ticking, and the legal fees were going to get astronomical, and that will bleed you dry in a heartbeat. And look, 15 billion sounds awesome. And I know the PIF are committing north of 1 billion. That's a drop in the ocean for those crowd. I mean, if you want to start comparing slush funds, 15 billion for the tour is minuscule compared to what they're doing over there in Saudi Arabia. So I think it's sort of comparing apples and oranges a little bit. And perhaps he didn't necessarily need to drop that number out there, because I'm more concerned with the cost of all of this stuff. Yeah, you might have 15 billion. But what are you spending? What are the corporates spending on sponsorship activation, and purses and all this sort of stuff. That's not 15 million just sitting around waiting to be spent. That stuff is probably committed by the tour already. It's just they couldn't afford the extra litigation and all the fees that were going to come with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's it. It was probably unnecessary to say a number, but Patrick, it's you get out of litigation and also the threat of Liv as a competitor, right? That's the other thing that maybe Jay hasn't been willing to say yet, that, hey, we were a little bit nervous about where this could go. Now they're no longer a competitor.
Oh, he literally said today, if it was just about litigation, I would say it was just about litigation, but it wasn't. And then to the Liv point, someone asked him about the future in 5 years or so. Didn't want to answer that, which I totally understand, being vague and whatnot. But it was really just a soup of words without much taste or really any substance to it, and that was pretty much it. I mean, the 15 billion was probably the highlight of it. The potential to maybe move courses for the Century in Maui. He was asked about their commitment to playing at Kapalua, and first he goes, absolutely, we're going to be there. And then like 2 sentences later, he's like, oh, actually, we might need a backup plan too if, they're not willing to have us, if, everything's not up to speed there yet. But it was just a lot of kind of back and forth with himself, up there on the podium.
Two things real quick, and I'll throw it back to you, Rick. One, he did talk a lot about how much more players are involved in decision making now, and he framed it as, oh, this is a really good thing. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, I don't know that it is. I don't like, I don't want. I mean, this is what we've been talking about, right, Rick? Where if players were involved in decision making in the NFL, you would never have you would not have rookies come into the league. Or it would be a lot more difficult for them to do so. And players are always going to be incentivized toward themselves. And that sometimes means a great product for the fan, but not always. And so I think that framing of that I found to be a little bit, listen, he's there to serve the players. And so I get it. But as a fan, I find that to be kind of problematic. If like, well, where am I in all this? That part is not talked about as much. And then the other thing that I'd love your take on is just, I sort of threw this out there earlier, but I don't know that anybody is like inspired about Jay Monahan leading the PGA Tour into this next era. I like Jay Monahan. I think he's like, I don't know him, but he seems like somebody that cares and like is a pretty good dude and like tries to take care of the players and tries to do all the right stuff. Just from a momentum and inspiration and like he seems fired up. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody else is, players, fans, anybody. And I just don't know if he's going to be able to turn that tide as we head into 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's my locker room guy at the Ryder Cup to get everybody all fired up and lead the charge onto the first tee. I do think that I agree with you in the sentiment that there's a lack of momentum, maybe a little bit of a lack of trust and support in the process. But we've talked about this before. The job that he has is very, I don't want to say unwinnable, but it's very difficult. Think about how many mouths he has to feed, right? It's the players, it's the fans, it's the sponsors, it's the board, it's everybody. And their goals and needs and wants never align. They just never align. You're never going to make everybody happy. Yeah, I think that sometimes he does some unforced errors where he says stuff that he puts himself into a box and then he tries to work himself out of it. But I don't envy that position, right? Like I joke that I want to be the golf czar. I don't want to be the PGA Tour commissioner. Like that's a very, very awkward situation to be in. And I don't know how you get wins anyway, Mark.
You guys are both on point there. Really, Kyle, I think you nailed it as well, where you said the players becoming involved. Look, you have to, because it's a players' organization. It's a members' organization. But the more control they get, the more they're basically signing their own paychecks. And this has been the problem. It's, I don't want to use the word greed, because look, we all want to make more money.
Totally.
But if Liv hadn't come along, then we wouldn't be in this pickle in terms of, upping purses basically ridiculously every few months. Because now the players have realized, hold on, if I just threaten not to play, then what can the tour do? So they are at a bit of a crossroads there. And I pray that sort of cooler heads will prevail a little bit. But right now, they're sort of running the deal. The power guys are running it, like a Rahm. And that's where maybe a Jimmy Dunn or someone like that who can tell the guys off a little bit is important, and Ed Hurley. And I'm sure that Jay's going to keep them pretty close as things go forward, because they're just deciding. And then I'll tell you this, I'm on group text messages with fellow announcers and players and stuff like that. And then when they find out that Kylian Mbappe is going to play in Saudi Arabia for $150 billion or whatever it is, they're like, all right, here we go. I'm throwing out a number there, but it was ridiculous.
It's probably close.
Yeah. And then there's another soccer player who was flying in a pimped out 747 by himself, courtesy of the Saudis. And he was getting like Ferraris to drive and all sorts of stuff. They're like, yeah, this sounds good. And so then they just go into Jay's office and they're like, what's up? And so it is, the spigot needs to be closed somehow. And I feel like as commissioner, that's probably his biggest challenge. Getting through this litigation is one thing, but that's where the challenge is, to sort of say, okay, that's enough already. Let's now get on with it.
Just for posterity here, so we don't end up on the news, Mark. Mbappe turned down the Saudi Arabian money.
Oh, he did.
And Neymar is who you're referencing that took the jet. So I just don't want you to end up on.
Thank you.
Saudi news tonight.
Yeah, like I'm just looking out for you, Mark.
I appreciate you very much. But that's the thing. These athletes see this stuff, and then they're like, because they're comparing leagues all the time. Then you see the soccer players making the stuff and the football players, and they're like, well, what about us? And so
I think yes, and I think that is a little bit what I was getting at with, yes, it's the litigation, Rick, of like whatever we're spending on lawyers and whatever. I don't know that math adds up to the 15 billion, right? Or like takes a significant chunk out of it. But it's the whatever it was called last year, the arms race of, we got 15 billion committed, but like we have no ceiling on what we're paying out, because if the competition keeps raising their prices, then we're going to have to do that also. And that's like 15 billion is great until you're spending 20 billion.
Yeah.
And that sounds like ridiculous, but it was kind of trending in that direction. And I think that's the part where it's like, okay, now things are maybe more stable and more under control, depending on what happens with the framework deal.
All right, we are going to turn our attention to the Tour Championship. A FedEx Cup will be presented on Sunday night. We'll hit those storylines, the starting positions, our best bets, our one and done. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
The man, the myth, the Messi. Catch Inter Miami take on FC Cincinnati in the U.S. Open Cup on the all-new Golazo Network.
And we're back. Tour Championship, Patrick, staggered start. Thursday morning before anybody hits a shot, Scotty Scheffler will be atop the leaderboard. He'll be at 10 under par, right behind Victor Hovland, 8 under, Rory McIlroy at 7, Jon Rahm at 6, and Lucas Glover at 5. Everybody after that will be slotted in at 4 under, 3 under, 2 under, 1 under, or even, depending on their FedEx Cup standings leading into this event. If you ask Vegas, they think it's kind of a 4-horse race between the guys at the top, but those strokes obviously playing a large part of the storyline this week.
Year 5. I can't believe it flew by this quick. I miss the shadow leaderboard every now and again.
Well, you kind of still have the shadow leaderboard, but in a different sense.
Yeah, I guess for world ranking points, right? They use the OWGR points for the other leaderboard, I think. Which,
OWGR just like ignores the strokes. They're like, I don't care at all.
It's absurd.
Yeah, which, I mean, you just got to love it. But in the 4 times they have used this, you got 2 winners from the front, Patrick Cantlay, Dustin Johnson in 20 and 21. And then 2 from middle of the pack, who is Rory McIlroy. I think he started -4 last year, -1 after one hole, and then the time before he was -5. So, yeah, I mean, if you're in that, I would say 3 under range, you got people there like a Tommy Fleetwood, Xander Schauffele, who, I mean, Xander has been money around this course throughout his career, and the -4s like Patrick Cantlay and Max Homa. You got to believe he's still got a chance. And even down the board, there's still a lot to play with for Ryder Cup considerations. I know we've been focusing a lot on the U.S. side, but someone like a Sepp Straka could be in need of a big week as well for that European side.
Yeah, you look at the board, Mark, and John Rahm, who occupied one of basically the top 2 spots in the FedEx Cup standings the entire year, has a first couple legs of the playoffs that were not necessarily up to par, and he will start 4th, 4 shots back. Rory McIlroy, I mean, should be easy. Only 3 shots back this time. Should be a no-brainer that he wins this.
Yeah, and to Patrick, last year Rory was 1 under through one hole. And then he bogeyed 2. He was actually even par for the championship through 2 holes and 10 back of Scheffler or Rahm, whoever was leading at that stage, and still won. And he won going away. So it's possible. And I was actually on another podcast yesterday, and they were asking about this graduated or whatever you want to call it, leaderboard. And I was like, I said to them, I'm like, raise your hands if you love NASCAR. And they did. And I'm like, well, raise your hands if you like Formula One. And they did the same thing. I'm like, well, you got pole position and another 20-something cars lined up behind you, depending on your qualifying times, and no one's got an issue with that. So we have ostensibly got the same sort of thing here. Guys have earned their position, well earned, and Rahm has not been good at all through the playoffs, but because of his play through the season, he still is relevant. So look, is it a perfect situation? Probably not, but it's done in other sports and it's done just fine. And so far, we've seen, since we've had this leaderboard, some really compelling tournaments. You haven't ever had a real blowout either, even with some guy starting at 10 under par. So look, it is what it is. There are guys up there with a chance. I feel like people, if you're at 3 under-ish, I think you've got a real shot if you get off to a fast start on Thursday. And by I mean fast start, that's just through the first few holes. If you've picked up 2 or 3 and you're at 6-ish, and Scotty Scheffler's on the first tee because those first few holes are difficult, you're like, I'm only 4 back, because if he drops 1 or 2, then there's two in it. So the way the golf course stacks up too, the start is difficult, then you get a little breather, and then it gets sort of hard holes through 14 and 15, and then you can finish with a flourish. So you can see a lot of volatility early, and that leaderboard will shrink, or it has shrunk before quite quickly.
Leaderboard gravity will certainly be in effect on Thursday and throughout the week. KP, I would like to pitch the idea that Scotty Scheffler with a 2-shot lead already has an allowance of losing 2 strokes putting built in, right? So now he gets to lose 2 strokes putting. He's even with the field. This thing's over. You can tweet vincecarter.gif right now, I think.
It does kind of feel like that with the second half of the year that he's had. I think the obvious rebuttal to that is
Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland. John Rahm is the obvious rebuttal.
Well, yeah, but I was just thinking, like, when's the last time Scotty lost to? I mean, he can't have lost to that many guys all year by like 6, which is what the -5s even. What's Lucas Glover's -5? Mm-hmm. He would have to beat Scheffler by 6. To get him.
Yeah. 6 over 4 rounds. Yeah.
I mean, the Open Championship and Memphis are kind of your rebuttals of like, yeah, he was like just kind of okay at those places. He finished top 25, but everywhere else has been like, yeah, he didn't lose to anybody. I mean, how many guys has he lost to by 6 since the Masters? Not many.
That'd be a lot, right?
Other than those 2 events. So it's going to be pretty interesting. It is difficult on paper to see him losing, but I also think I think mentally it's a little bit difficult to kind of run away, right? Because I don't know. This is going to be like a eye test Patrick and Mark thing, but like when you're like 7 up, it just mentally it's almost hard to put the pedal down and just blow everybody out. And I know that sounds really dumb, but I think it's just a very difficult thing to do. And it takes a unique player to go do it. Could Scotty do it? Sure. But is he going to? I don't know. I mean, I'm fascinated to find out. I think it's going to be an interesting week.
Patrick, I'd like to make a quick observation and have you respond. Like last week, Scotty, I would have bet significant money with 9 holes to go that he was winning that thing, but he didn't. And then two, how many times on this show when a guy's led for one round and he's led another round, and then the thing of having this lead and you sleeping on the lead for so long starts wearing on you, even if you're a Scotty Scheffler or someone who's generational like that. So there's a lot, to Kyle's point, emotionally that you have to deal with when you're sitting in this place, even though you have the lead.
Yeah, and I think going back to last week, that was kind of like a Haley's Comet type of thing, right? I mean, a back nine 28 to beat you. You shoot 66 on Sunday. I know you miss a few putts coming in, but I'm sure Scotty Scheffler would have signed up for a round in the mid-60s. And to the point of, not putting your foot on the gas, I mean, he did last year. He shot 3 rounds in the mid-60s to open up the Tour Championship. He was winning by 5 going into Sunday. He just had one of those days where it all really fell apart, and you're sitting next to Rory McIlroy playing with him, and he's having a good day, and it all just crumbles. It all, starts moving really fast. So I really have no concerns about Scotty Scheffler sleeping on the lead for potentially 3 straight days again, because I thought he proved those first 54 holes at least. He's more than capable, and I think the golf course is, the way he's hitting the ball, every golf course is great for him, but I think East Lake is a great fit for him as well.
They will go out on Thursday, and I think every day they reshuffle based on the current standings. So Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, the final group out. Rory McIlroy with John Rahm, Lucas Glover will play with Max Homa. Some pretty powerful pairings coming out. We're gonna, yes, Kyle.
Scheffler's lost to 12 guys by 6 since winning the Players.
He's lost to 12 guys by 6 since winning the Players. So since March, Scotty Scheffler has only lost to 12 guys by 6 in individual events. And he's played probably 18 times since then. Maybe not that.
He lost to 1 at the Masters. Rahm got him by 7 or 8. He lost to 8 at the Open, and then 3 or 4 at Memphis.
So
maybe 5.
Pretty unlikely he gets passed by a lot of guys here.
Yeah.
Real quick, we'll get to our best bets and our one and done, but I'm going to open this up to anybody. Safe space here. If you would like to pitch your idea for a different Tour Championship format, the floor is now open. I think this is obviously way better than what we had. I'm not sure it's the best thing we ever do, although I don't know if I have a solution to it. If you'd like to pitch your idea for the Tour Championship, I'm now taking those pitches.
I don't have anything specific. I just want to see match play. I think match play gets a little bit of a bad rap during the match play event because you can't guarantee good matchups, right? Like you do in a Ryder Cup or a President's Cup. You almost always, especially a Ryder Cup, you almost always get great individual matchups. And you can guarantee that in this event by either the format or the structure that they have or something similar. And I would love to see just more match play involved. I don't have anything specific with that. That's just my broad desire.
I think not so much match play, but 18 holes of stroke play one-on-one. Because match play, Rick, you've brought this up before, to play your whole season in stroke play and then change it for the Super Bowl, so to speak, that's tough to do.
Yeah, but that's what we do for the Ryder Cup. Is the Ryder Cup devalued because it's match play instead of stroke play?
No, it's not a season long. It's not a season long championship. It's a one-off event. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, but the Tour Championship can do whatever they want.
Then don't tie it to the season long standings. Make it a 5th major, call it match play, call it the Tour Championship, the FedEx Cup. You know what I mean? You can't have both. You can't have this is the season long and now we change the format. And actually, I have grown on match play being the FedEx Cup and the Tour Championship since they got rid of match play. But again, my example is always you cannot play 82 games of an NBA season and then go to 3-on-3 to find out who the best team is.
The USAM does it, right? Where you have 36 holes of stroke play and then you go to match play. So what if the whole playoffs is match play?
Or I'm okay with some type of hybrid.
Like 36 holes of qualifying. The leaders get, the staggered start or whatever, and then you go from there or something.
I just don't like the idea of switching it. So sorry, Patrick, to jump in there, but that's it's it's tough.
I was just gonna go bracket style stroke play.
How do you but you have to, the problem is, I mean, I know the problem with that, right? Is like you have to reward the guys who had better seasons, and
yeah, but do you have to? I mean, I think the reward should be like fewer guys make it to the postseason. And then once you get there, whether you are, I mean, this is other sports, right? How like there's they've started expanding because there's more money involved, but I would love to see just the top, I don't know, 32 or whatever. And you make it like 70 is better. I think everyone can agree like 70 this year was so much better than 125 because it's a real thing to make it to the postseason and to make it into the BMW. I thought the cut line in Memphis was compelling, like really compelling. And so I think just shrinking that down to where, hey, whether you're first or 32nd, you guys are all in, and then just have at it. It's just, I don't know. It's such an oddity that you're rewarding what happened in February on like the back nine of the Tour Championship in August. Right?
no, yes. Go ahead, Mark. Did you want to jump in?
Well, the history of this event was that it was just a reward basically for the top 30 players at the end of the season. And it wasn't tied to a season-long championship. And since the addition of the FedEx Cup, that's what kind of put a bit of a wrangle in the whole thing. So, I mean, that's sort of the story there. And in terms of, cutting this to a smaller field, golly, in football, they're trying to make the playoffs bigger. And everyone's whining that there's only 4 teams.
Every sport is.
Yeah, every sport's trying to make postseason bigger, and we're trying to make it smaller. And I could get you Justin Thomas on the line right now, and I'll tell you he doesn't like the 70 players right now. So look, if you make it smaller, you run the risk of losing some of the big names. When you lose some of the big names, a tournament right now, this is the truth, and I live in Georgia, and this is a special event to me. It struggles a little bit on the weekend because this week in Atlanta, we got Steelers Falcons preseason Thursday night. The Braves are in town, and the Braves are good. There's something else in the go too. There's a lot going on, and we've got college football on the doorstep. Golf, in as much as what this is a bunch of studs showing up here, folks are like, meh. So it's a challenging spot to be. And as far as I'm concerned, change match play, stroke play, whatever the case might be, I think that's immaterial. Match play is always dangerous to me because then you get some guy bounce 6 and 5 who's going to drive the TV ratings. I'll tell you right now, the networks are paying millions of dollars for this stuff. They don't want that. They want
but look who's
Sunday.
Look who's 30th. Who's 30th or 29th?
Jordan.
Yeah. So like if you have 30, I hear you, Mark, but you're gonna have some name, like you're gonna have some stars, right?
Mark is 100% right, but could you imagine like if the Super Bowl is the Jaguars versus some other crappy team, like that's what you get. Like it's just what you get.
Yeah.
It could be Kevin Kisner versus Billy Marshall.
We sit in production meetings every Saturday and Sunday morning, and then they're trying to send rovers out, and Dottie gets the final group, and I largely get the penultimate group, and then Colt moves or I move a little bit, and we don't move to unless it's someone's going crazy. We don't go to Sepp Straka, who's going great necessarily in a big field. We go to Rory, or you go to Scotty, or you go to because those are the guys that are going to be on TV because they move ratings, and so that's always something. That's always the shadow in the background that has a big say-so in how this stuff is.
Well, Mark's getting at the reason that all of this, that the Live PGA Tour exists, is because the stars are bigger than the actual PGA Tour, which is not true really in any other sport.
But the fans are a big deal too, Kyle. I mean, it's only the folks like us that care about the fact that Kisner just did whatever. Like I get home and people are like, wow, what a great tournament. But when we went to our little church function this morning. How about Hovland? I'm like, yeah, he shot 28. And the one guy goes, what does that mean? A lot of the golf fans just turn on the golf on TV. They're not as invested as us. And I think the fans have a massive say-so in how this whole thing works. Yeah, certainly the players do. But the players, if I turn on the TV and I'm not a golf junkie and I see, with love to them, I don't know, Russell Henley versus Sepp Straka versus Chris Kirk, I'll watch it because I'm a golf guy. Everyone else is like, man, I'll go and do something else.
Well, yeah, I hear you. The rebuttal to that is like one-on-one match play is a lot easier to understand for a common fan than Victor Hovland's at 8 under and Sepp Straka's at even. You know, like I think there's some simplicity to the match play part. I had another point, I forgot it. You were going to say something, Patrick.
Yeah, my thing was, you know, the difference between 50 players and 30 players from last week to this week. The BMW has been strictly hits for like the past 5 years. It's been unbelievable. I don't do 20 players make that much of a difference between, I mean, the Tour Championship can be a bit of a snooze fest from time to time versus, I mean, maybe they've just gotten lucky with the finishes and who's risen up to play. But the BMW, I feel like, has been one of the top 3 tournaments on the calendar for the last 3, 4, or 5 years.
One other idea, Rick, real quick, and I'll throw it back to you. Sorry. I told Sean Martin this the other day. The weather is tough, right? Memphis, Chicago was probably unusually hot, but Memphis and Atlanta in August, post all 4 majors, it's just I get why you have it when you have it, but and I don't know that there's a way to do this, but to have your championship or whatever it is in around the players in March when there's all this momentum through January, February, and into March, again, you'd have to make such a weird regular season from like April to I don't know if it would work, but I just feel like even players, it's like, does anybody want to be out there right now? I mean, I know there's a ton of money and like it's a big deal and all that stuff. It's just it feels like everybody's just trying to get through I mean, Scotty Scheffler said this last week. He's like, I'm just trying to get through next week. And it's like, that's not what you want your best players saying about your championship, right? It's just kind of it's a weird vibe all the way around.
A couple ideas coming in the chat here, Josh. Paul says, go back to how it was. Joseph says, get rid of the staggered start and go to different courses. And Renata has maybe the easiest idea. Just give it all to Rory and save some of those billions. Which, does seem more streamlined than what we're doing right now. Okay, gents, let us. Do I need another break here, Josh, or am I good to roll on? I can't remember. Okay, we're gonna do our best bets. We're gonna do our one and done, but first we're gonna take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in Tour Championship history. We're down to the final 4.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
And we're back. The bets, matchups, finishing positions, outrights, and I believe we have done a little bit of with starting strokes, without starting strokes. We'll have to see where these go. Oh, boy, there we go. That is the grid. Let us start with our matchups. And, Mark, I would like to ask you to kick us off.
There were 2. The other one was a Sung Jae M bet that I was very interested in because Sung Jae has been good around Eastlake for the last few seasons, and he looks like he's coming into some form. But you know me, I don't like to bet negative stuff very much. And so I found Finau at plus 135. His record at the golf course is decent. I know the form coming in isn't so good, but this is like a complete change of scenery. 30 players, the pre-tournament commitments are not as hectic for a lot of these guys. They shorten practice sessions and play like 9 holes at a time. And so the vibe is different. And I feel like Tony will find a little groove because this is a guy this is a golf course for a really good driver of the golf ball. So Finau at plus 135 over Morikawa, who looked kind of iffy to me last week. And there was a stage, one of our on-course spotters said to me, because I had Morikawa obviously last week in one and done. He goes, well, bad news. I'm like, what's that? And he said, well, I was on the 1 tee and Collins just decided to hit 3-wood for the rest of the day because he wasn't that sure where the driver was going. So it sounds to me that Morikawa is not completely on top of his game. And so why not just go head to head? Finau does in this bet have a 1-stroke start. I think it is on Collins. So give me Tony 1 ahead plus 135 over Morikawa.
Yeah, make sure you're paying attention to what you're clicking this week because you'll see without starting strokes, all that fun stuff. Patrick, you have opted. Oh, you traitor! An Englishman over an American. What have you chosen?
Tommy Fleetwood. Minus 120 over Ricky Fowler. This just seems like the perfect spot for Tommy. He's probably not going to win this tournament. You know, he gets to freewheel it around East Lake. He's a great driver of the golf ball. Ricky has been just since his win in Detroit, and I don't love him on, tighter golf courses. So give me the Englishman minus 120.
Yeah, I've actually got the biggest number here, minus 130, Tom Kim over Siwoo Kim. I think Tom Kim is playing now like we thought he was going to play in January after the fall that he gave us. We're actually getting the good version of Tom Kim right now, and I'm going to ride it as long as I possibly can. Siwoo is switching back and forth between the broomstick and the short one. He's got no idea what's going on out there. I'll take Tom Kim minus 130. KP, you went right to the top of the board for your matchup.
Yeah, I've got Patrick Cantlay over John Rahm. Rahm is he's not been good the first two events. And I know he starts with a lead over Cantlay, but it's not a massive lead. And I don't love the way he's hitting it right now. So I don't know. We'll see. But I liked the number on Cantlay.
Finishing positions. And these are with the starting strokes. Now, Kyle and Patrick, you found the same wager. Patrick, why don't you release that to the world?
Russ Bus Henley. I got Kyle in the co-pilot seat with us. Top 10 plus 165. The most underrated player on the PGA Tour. He starts at -3.
Wow.
Great golf course for him. Love the fit. I think he's in for a great week.
Anything to add, KP?
Most underrated player on the PGA Tour?
I think so. Who would you put?
Probably Scheffler.
I knew he was going to say that.
I mean,
so easy.
You tweeted the graph. It's a joke.
It's an absolute joke.
No,
who's your second most underrated player on the PGA?
Xander's up there for me. I feel like I've flipped on Xander. I don't necessarily love watching him or his sort of vibe, but he's so good. And I feel like he's kind of gotten this bad rap of like never wins when he actually like he I mean, I know he hasn't won this year, but he does win. So I don't know. Xander's up there for me. I don't know. Russell Henley, maybe I could see it this year. I mean, I think people don't realize like how good he's been really since I think he finished top 10 at the Masters. He's been really good for most of the year.
So who's the most overrated player on tour then?
Oh, how long you got, Mark? Jeez, we could be here all week.
I'm fascinated. I thought Scheffler was a good shot. You're right.
Cantlay is the most overrated player on tour.
You reckon?
Yeah, I mean, if Cantlay had won the St. Jude, his last, I think, 4 stroke play individual wins would have been over a combined 200 golfers, which would have been pretty funny. I'm not putting Cantlay there yet, though. I'm just putting that nugget out into the ether.
You could talk me into Cam Young.
What about the golden boy, Jordan Spieth? Maybe.
Oh boy, he was fighting words.
Patrick just lit the fuse.
Hey, get back to me when one of your boys wins 3 majors, Patrick.
That's why I went with
okay. Yeah. How long ago was that?
They still count.
Yeah, it's
right.
You take them away after. There's no statute of limitations.
He's Hall of Fame down.
Yeah, 2 wins in the last 5 years. Okay.
We've devolved.
This has dangerous written all over it.
It's a fair point, Patrick. It's a fair point.
I'm just poking the bear. I'm done.
My finishing position, I had to double and triple check a couple of times, and I'm staring at it right now. With starting strokes, Lucas Glover, top 5, 4-1.
I love this.
He's starting in 5th.
Yeah, that's good.
He has been like the hottest player on the planet for the last month. 4-1 that he just stays in his position or improves it. Am I is this a mistake? Is this free money? I stared at this 17 times to make sure it wasn't without starting strokes or anything else.
Well, I believe Russell Henley's T11, right, Patrick? Starting out?
Yeah, like in that log jam there.
So he has to move up one, and he's plus 165. So he's over half of, well, he's over twice as. This is saying
or twice as, yeah.
He's twice as likely to move up one spot as Lucas Glover is to keep his position.
I don't get it. Is it a pricing error? Like it is just. I mean, it's sitting on DraftKings right now. I'm looking at it right now. I don't.
Well, what is Scotty to win? Right.
So Scotty to win is plus 140. So they have it. I mean, they've got everybody. Everyone's priced in line with this. So they've got Matt Fitzpatrick top. Oh wait, so they've got Matt Fitzpatrick. Yeah, they've Matt Fitzpatrick top 5 for just a little bit shorter than Lucas Glover. So they're saying, okay, well, Fitzpatrick is better than Glover. He's one shot behind. So I mean, it's priced correctly. I just think it's a little.
Rick, here's the $1 billion question. You're looking at that screen. Have you got the other screen open where you're hitting that bet prodigiously right now?
Yeah, that's the thing is like, my brain is like, am I missing something? And
you should be piling on, I think. With
empty the bank account. So Glover top 5, Russell Henley top 10 for KP and Patrick. Mark, your selection, please.
First off, I'm laughing at these comments. Paul's Bill's Mafia goes Max Homer by $1 billion most overrated. I'm going with, well, this is according to Rick Rungood. So here's the numbers, and I'll tell you who it is.
Can't be wrong.
Since 2018, finishes 7th, 2nd, 5th, 4th, and he has one around you too. His name's Xander Schauffele. He's playing solid, top 10, minus 115, and I don't bet minus numbers very much. But I think Xander this week is a really good pick, and you'll see that from me a lot.
The East Lake numbers are pretty ridiculous. He doesn't have as many rounds as Rory McIlroy does, but he is better in terms of strokes gained. Rory's at 1.4 per round. Xander's at 1.8, which is getting into some pretty elite company of being 1.8 strokes gained per round over 24 rounds at a single golf course. That is upper end course horse stuff.
I will say this, the second year he went to the Tour Championship, he was out there playing a practice round by himself Wednesday afternoon, and I was just course scouting, and I caught him on the 15th green, and so he's hitting shots back and forth, and I walked over to him. I'm like, so what is it about this place? You're a California boy. You're in the middle of Georgia. It's humid. You're not used to that sort of stuff. He goes, the grass, Mark. He goes, the Zoysia grass is like Kikuyu where I grew up. And he goes, I love it. And it said it sort of settles with his golf swing, how it picks balls off that grass. And so he goes, love the place, love the grass, feel very comfortable here.
The grass, Mark. That's what it is. Outrights. I'll get out of the way here. Max Homa without strokes, 14-1. Brian Harman without strokes, 40-1. You'll see why in a second. I like the without strokes market a little bit better. KP, your 2 selections for this week, please.
Yeah, I've got Rory and Xander. I mean, they've been 2 of the 3 best players ever at East Lake. Tiger is in between them, I believe. I think it goes Xander, Tiger, Rory, if I've got my numbers correct, Rick. You can double check me on that. But they've both been awesome at this golf course. I think Rory is I think he's the most likely player to win. I would maybe even put Hovland ahead of Scheffler right now. I don't know why. I'm not down on Scheffler. He seems frustrated and he seems exhausted, and I don't know. I'm interested to see how his week goes.
Rory and Xander. Patrick, look at you. You are embracing chaos or trying to get yourself into the black. Which one is it?
Yeah, I'm down bad, Rick. I think Scotty Scheffler probably takes this thing home, but I'm going with Tommy Fleetwood, 80-1 to be your FedEx Cup winner, having never won on the PGA Tour. What a story that would be. And then Russell, there we go, Mark. And then Russell Henley, 90-1. I mean, he's 6th in total strokes gained over the last 6 months. Come on, Russ Bus. We're driving all the way into the winner's circle this weekend.
Mark, you have selected the same exact outrights as Kyle. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele. Those names appearing quite a lot for you.
Exactly what Kyle said. I'm not necessarily on board with Scheffler being listless. I was dispatched to get the loser interview with Scotty Scheffler post BMW Championship. and that didn't turn out very well because he was one aggravated fellow. I would say I wouldn't go with Scotty just because the putting is still suspect. And from all my experience around you, Rick, you can talk to more what the metrics say, but I think you need to drive it well around this place, and you really need to putt well because these greens aren't very big, and they're this mini Verde Bermuda, and they are spectacular. And if you miss, it's pure operator error. So if you're rolling it well, and Scotty sort of battle there, hits it, misses a lot of putts low. Rory, who I've picked, seems to read these greens a whole lot better than what he has some of the other places he's been at. So I'm going with Rory because of the record, and Xander, we've talked about him. So those are my two guys to win.
Our extra 50 goes on anything that we want. Now, Josh, can you see what I have an outstanding wager on Scotty to win the FedEx Cup from like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Can you find out what that number was? Plus 450, I want to say. I have just doubled down on that. So I've taken Scotty to win this at plus 140 for my extra 50. Josh thinks it's plus 480. So I'm trying to cash both of these right now. I am not nearly as concerned as UKP at the top of the board. I think there's a lot of paths for Scotty to get it done. What's your selection, please?
Yeah, I mean, you're probably correct. I'm probably just more. Last week was the first time where I was like, man, Scheffler, like it's got to be infuriating, as Mark said after he gets done.
You know what helps him sleep at night? $20 million he's earned already this year.
Oh yeah,
yeah, but he is such a competitive dude, and like he just wants to win so bad. And I think that I don't know, he just seems a little. I don't want to say in his head, but he's a little just, I don't know, antsy right now. It seems like Victor Hovland top 5. This just seems like a complete and total lock with the way that he's playing. There's going to be no come down from last week. I think he finishes in the top 5.
All right, Patrick, you are in full Aaron Rodgers Hail Mary mode. Would you like to reveal your wager, your best bet, the best possible bet you found for this week?
Look, I made a promise to the fans that we would get back into the black, and I plan on coming through for all the little boys and girls out there. And it's Russell Henley to win without strokes at 35-1. Honest to God, I had a different bet in before, and I will reveal it because it will probably happen now. It was Corey Connors to make a hole-in-one at 100-1, which I feel like that guy makes.
He makes them once a month.
Exactly. So I'm gonna regret that if that one hits somehow, but it's gonna be Russell Henley 35-1 to total the low 72 hole score.
I'm gonna put your mind at ease about that hole-in-one bet. These 4 par 3s around this place are despicable.
Now it's a lock. It's an
I know, but
Corey Connors makes
it's Corey Connors, Mark. It's Corey Connors.
Hey, hitting the greens, the 4 greens. If you hit all 4 greens, all 4 rounds in these 3s, you're doing a job.
Yeah, wow, Corey, he's definitely gonna do it. Mark, your extra 50, please.
Sticking with Xander, my performance has been hard in this thing, so I'm going Xander top 10 minus 115. And try and establish a little respect for the crap I've laid out here for the last portion of the season.
Last item, gents. The one and done. The final week. The earnings. 7.2 to first, 4.3 to second, 2.7 to third, 1.9 to fourth. There are 11 spots that pay over $1 million. Reveal them, Josh. Oh, boy. There they are. Look at these bookends. Both Kyle and Mark have done exactly what they've said they were going to do. They are going to roll out Rory, McIlroy, KP. This is a dirty, dirty way for you to finish second, and I love it.
Hey, nobody backdoor top 2s like I do.
Mark,
it's gonna look great on the Wikipedia page. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah, you're gonna get a yellow square. Congratulations, Mark. You faded the last couple of weeks of anybody overtaking you, and you're slotted in Rory McIlroy stands tall at Eastlake.
Yeah, last 2 weeks I remember I was vacillating between Morikawa and Hovland for the first event, and I turned out I had them the wrong way around. But they didn't really do me any damage. Kyle M, I was concerned a little bit last week with Max Homer doing what he was, but sort of reversed a little over the weekend. So Rory, look, I love his chances. He's right up the leaderboard. His record here is amazing. Let me tell you what, he was hitting some tee shots. Now, look, he drives the ball well. But on Saturday afternoon in his warm-up, he was hitting drives. And my brother and me and Dottie Pepper were standing behind him. And these balls were taking off and freaking leaving at a rate of knots. 340, 350 in the air and on frozen ropes. Nothing was going left. If anything, he hit this sort of soft little fade. And I use the word soft probably incorrectly because the ball was hit so hard. But the driver is unreal. And then he mentioned to me, he goes, he's finally found a 3-wood that sits right and he doesn't feel like he's going to hook it. So now if the driver does misbehave, he's got a 3-wood, which you can hit almost to about 300 yards. So the boy's got a weapon off the tee again. That's his game. Putted to me looks fine. So McElroy at Eastlake, I'm digging. I saved him for a reason.
All right. Well, we will try to track you down. Patrick, your golfer is going to start at 3 under par. Who is it?
Keegan Bradley. I game theoried myself too hard. I'm surprised we don't have. I thought someone would pick Brian Harman ahead of me, so I chose to go. I chose to go down to Keegan Bradley, and look, I'm $6.8 million behind. Keegan Bradley, he bleeds red, white, and blue. He needs a win for the Ryder Cup, a win for Patrick McDonald. Both are heavily on his mind. And I think he gets it done for us this week. And meanwhile, Rory McIlroy, that's great that he's hitting the driver grade on the range mark. I'm really happy for him. But he only hit 24 fairways last week. Probably should have had an OB ball there on Sunday. So I'm not too concerned about him. I wouldn't be surprised if he takes a bow out.
Do you want to bet wine on this?
Donates the money to the local charities there in Atlanta and doesn't collect a dollar for you.
I'll take a bet with you on that. Hey, listen, I want to say this. Brian Harman, you mentioned his name. I had him and Homer Sunday afternoon. We joined them on the second hole. For the first 8 holes, Harman had 7 1-putts and 1 2-putt. It was the most unbelievable performance on and around the greens I think I might have ever seen. He was like a left-handed Jordan. It was unreal to watch. So I feel like this golf course is a lot for Harman. He might be a dark horse around this place too.
I'm into Harman at the Ryder Cup. I think he's going to be.
Yeah,
he's going to be sweet.
I think you put him with Brooks and they just bully everyone.
Never mind.
Say it, Rick.
I was gonna say they'd be a good. You ever play like what's that game in the pool where one guy gets on the other guy's shoulders or whatever?
Chicken fight.
Yeah, they'd be great at that. Harman, like they'd be agile, but Harman will like rip your eyes out and like pull your hair and all that stuff.
I think you might have to put him with Scotty so Scotty can see something go in.
That too.
The sneaky little Sia Nejad has John Rahm, who has the 4th shortest odds to win this. 7 million would be plenty to get the job done. And the romantic part about this is John Rahm is who Sia tried to use when he submitted it late, and we didn't allow him to. So he got John Rahm back, and now we might all pay for that decision.
That's a good pick.
Who? How much does second get?
I put it into the on another tab of
like 6.2-ish, I think.
4.3. 4.3.
So Rory would have to finish 3rd if Rahm wins for Mark to lose.
Yeah, because Sia would make up it'd only be 3 million, and that would not be enough. Yeah, so Rory finishing 1st or 2nd probably gets it done for Mark. 3rd,
first, yes,
1st, obviously, yeah. 2nd, I think 2nd does it as well. 3rd is not necessarily safe depending on the other configurations.
One and done's the best, isn't it?
It's the best, Mark. Thanks. Greg has Wyndham Clark. The fans have Sung J M. This was the tough one here. So I had my options were Lucas Glover at 5 under or Brian Harman at 4 under. And I went back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I said, give me the stroke. They're both pretty hot. I went with Lucas Glover. I do not feel good about it, and I life hedged it and bet on Brian Harman.
So smart.
That's a tough one. It really is.
It's brutal.
I like how, I mean, obviously both of them are playing quite well. I think taking the stroke is probably the play, but
I think I just have to.
Man, that's hard.
Yeah.
So you need Glover, but you need Glover to win. Maybe.
Or I need Rory to like drop significantly.
Yeah. And then
if Rory finishes 5th, that's 1.6. And I could get second from Glover, which would be 2.7 million. That would get me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Potential.
I mean, it's all dependent on Rory.
It's all
and yeah, it's just like what he does basically.
Yeah. Russell Henley for Kyle M. I was actually texting with Kyle M. So Kyle M is going to go. He's going to finish. He's going to have a great season, and he's going to go this year without having played Rory because he took the risk of saving him for the overtake. Never got the overtake, and will run out Russell Henley. So it was a good attempt. I salute the high risk, high reward strategy. It will not. Well, we'll see if it pays off, but he will not be able to use Rory. He will not have used Rory McIlroy this week.
I tipped my cap to Kyle M last week, but now I do it even more because you and I were texting last week, Rick, and I said, look, even if I get overtaken, I'm still playing Rory just for the bragging rights to not go from 1st to about 4th or 5th or something like that. So I was going to play Rory anyway. No matter what happened.
Kyle M says, I'm going for the gusto. I'm going for Russell Henley and the miracle to the top of the board. He has played this beautifully this year.
Really has done it well.
All right, gents. Any final thoughts before we get out of here for the Tour Championship? We'll obviously be back after round by every round, and we'll release our schedule for next week and a couple weeks with Ryder Cup stuff coming up. But any final thoughts here before we get out of here and head to East Lake?
Yes, please. When I'm driving home Sunday nights, I won't know what the final standings are. So if someone could text me the results, the accurate results.
You'll know. If Rory finishes 1st or 2nd, you win. If he doesn't, start sweating.
All right. I'm going to be anyway with the temperature out there.
Yeah, you'll get the leaderboard and the shadow leaderboard. We'll text you both.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to have a meeting about the asterisks and how much they're worth, and we'll get back to you on that.
All right, fine.
Anything else? All right. Pleasure, gents. Producer Josh does all the hard work behind the scenes. Mark Immelman, available online at Mark_Immelman. Patrick McDonald at Amateur Status. Kyle Porter at Kyle Porter CBS. And you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.